East side, B side, what side are you on?
So this week on the B side, episode 127. Adam, I know you love a good solved case. Put to bed, put to rest, helps you sleep better at night.
Absolutely. I like closure. I don't get it in life, so I want it in my stories.
So this one is like almost a 50-year-old, actually over a 50-year-old case that has finally been solved.
Oh, wow.
This is the story of, or the solving of the murder of Rita Curran. So in 1971, in the summer of 1971, Rita, who's just 24 years old, she's a baby. I've got a 23 and a 25-year-old. So like this is someone that could be mine. Ooh, I just made myself feel real old right
Yeah.
there. But she's 24. She moves out into her very first apartment, which I can totally relate because my daughter's talking about moving out. She moves into her very first apartment in Burlington, Vermont. She's got 3 roommates. At the time, Rita was a second grade teacher and she had gone back to school. She had just started graduate classes at the University of Vermont. Well, again, it's summertime. And over the summer, she has a job as a maid at a local motel. Well, early on the morning of July 20th, one of Rita's roommates comes home, and when they return home, they find her body. So, of course, police are called, and it's been determined that Rita had been sexually assaulted, beaten, and strangled. The police also, in their investigation, discovered that Rita had put up a, quote, vicious struggle. So whoever her attacker was would obviously have some kind of marks on them because she fought back hard. The initial suspect in this case was none other than serial killer Ted Bundy.
Oh.
You see, the motel that Rita worked at during the summer was very close to where Ted Bundy was born, the Elizabeth Lund Home for Unwed Mothers. There's also the similarities to the Ted Bundy crime scenes. John Bassett, he's a retired FBI agent. He suggests Bundy, even though there's no evidence to state that it was to state that it was Ted Bundy. John says, "I think this is him. This is where his birthplace is. Look at the similarities in the case. It's got to be him."
Right.
Rita's sister actually sends a telegram to Ted Bundy, and they also weren't able to put Ted Bundy in the area at the time of that crime. So Rita's sister sent a telegram to Ted Bundy, who at that time, or by the time this FBI agent suggests it, and they get around to it, Rita's sister sends a telegram to Ted Bundy, who's on Florida's death row. He does receive the telegram, but he would not confirm nor deny his involvement. So Detective Robert D. Keppel questions Ted Bundy before his execution. Bundy admits to killing a young woman in 1971 in Burlington, Vermont, when he was in the area to obtain information about his birth. Well, Ted Bundy was actually executed on my birthday, which is kind of weird. On January 22nd, the night before his execution, he recants it and denies any involvement in Rita Curran's case. So we're back to the drawing board, if we are to believe Ted Bundy.
Yeah, the liar killer guy.
Right. So it turns out back in the 70s, nobody knew about DNA and DNA testing because it wasn't a thing. So people were leaving their DNA everywhere.
Right.
Well, it was thank you to a discarded cigarette butt. Authorities were able to solve this 52-year-old murder case of second grade school teacher Rita Curran.
Wow.
There was a news conference very recently where Burlington police detective Lieutenant James Trebe, he says, "We are all confident William DeRoos is responsible for the aggravated murder of Rita Curran." Unfortunately, William will never be brought to justice because William has died. and I'm not that's that last part is me saying that.
Yeah.
So police officials discovered that William DeRoos was actually an upstairs neighbor of Rita Curran. It was the cigarette butt that was left near her body that was submitted for DNA testing that discovered this. So first time it was submitted was in 2014, but there were no genetic matches found in the system at that time.
Mhm.
Well, in 2019, it's submitted again. And investigators also re-interview Michelle, who at the time was married to William DeRoos. Initially, in 1971, upon the discovery of Rita Curran and her murder, everybody in the apartment complex was interviewed. Well, Michelle and William lived upstairs, and Michelle had told police that she and her husband were together the entire evening, and he had not left. When she was re-interviewed in 2019, she said, "Yeah, I lied. We were, we were newlyweds, we were in love, and I was just trying to protect him," because she didn't believe that her husband had anything to do with the crime. But when she was re-interviewed, she said, yeah, he had actually left for a brief period of time because we had a fight and he left to cool off. So apparently what had happened is he had stumbled upon Rita, got into her apartment, assaulted her, beat her, strangled her, smoked a cigarette, left the cigarette by her body, and that was how he cooled off.
Good grief.
Yeah. In 1974, there was another woman, not Michelle, who also said she was married to William DeRoos. She told police upon an interview that he was known for sudden violent outbursts. She actually noted two very violent incidences when they were together. One was when the couple was talking to a female friend, and out of the blue, William DeRoos pulls a knife out of his pocket and he stabs the friend for no reason. He's arrested, but the friend didn't press any charges, so he's released, which I don't understand, because I feel like if you stab someone, whether they press charges or not, that's still assault.
Yeah, like maybe the rules have changed since the 70s, but I feel like the state can still be like, yeah, no, you can't just stab people. We're
Right.
charging you.
No,
And they
that's
don't have to press
you don't
charges.
get to just stab people willy-nilly like that.
Yeah.
Another time, she said they were having dinner when out of the blue, he just got up and started to strangle her. It was then that she left him. She's like, now this is, he's already stabbed somebody. Now he's strangling me, which how you like witness your husband just randomly stab a person and you don't leave. Fine. I'm not judging you, but really?
There has to be like something more to that story. Like
Mm-hmm.
it seemed like he said something that took the wrong way, or there was a misunderstanding.
But you just don't stab people.
You don't. No. I've tried to make a habit of just not stabbing on a daily basis. 42 plus years.
Right. So now, 2 divorces under his pocket, William DeRoos moves to Thailand, where he becomes a Buddhist monk. He's in Thailand for a few years. He ends up back in the United States, and he dies of a drug overdose at the age of 46 in a hotel room in San Francisco. Michelle, his first ex-wife, actually moves to Eugene, Oregon, and she has since changed her name. So that's why I say there won't actually be like justice served, but we do know, I mean, there's closure in the case because now her family knows who is responsible for her death, but it's not like they'll actually get to see him brought to justice, which really kind of sucks.
Yeah. And at least Ted Bundy doesn't get extra credit for something he didn't do.
Yeah, that's true. But after 52 years, it was a cigarette butt that solved this cold case, the murder of Rita Curran. And that's this week's B-side.
It's amazing what they can do with DNA. Like 50-year-old cigarette butt still on there.
Seriously.
That's
seriously
crazy.
If you were in the 70s committing crime and you were leaving your DNA places, you better be it's just a matter of time before they come and get you.
Yeah, well, and especially now that they're using those databases where everybody's doing like the 23andMe or like your ancestry.
Yeah.
Your DNA most of those databases are being shared with authorities, so people can get caught. So, I
So
mean, it's
even
just
if you don't
a
like
numbers game.
participate in it, if your kid does,
Yeah,
you're screwed
you know,
still. Or
yeah,
a
we're gonna
cousin or
find it.
something. Yeah. Yeah, but
DNA, we know DNA evidence is not infallible. They make mistakes with that as well at times, but it's certainly a lot more provable than and it can help in cases like this where it seems like there's just you know nothing seems to come of the case. It just kind of
right,
hangs out there.
right. So that's pretty fantastic, pretty amazing that after all these years it was solved. But that's the B-side. It was quick this week, I know.
Yeah, nothing wrong. We don't need to have an hour and a half, episode every week. Sometimes it's going to be, short and sweet and to the point. Mine is also not going to be super long, but it is the A side this week is a review of a movie that I have routinely in my top 10. And I feel has not been widely known. Was not a huge financial hit. It actually grossed more money overseas than it did in the U.S., but it is credited with kind of relaunching its star into the A-list in Hollywood because it was so well received. It even was premiered at some film festivals and things at the time. And it is 2005's neo-noir black comedy crime film written and directed by Shane Black. And Shane Black at one point was the highest paid screenwriter in all of Hollywood. He's known for movies like Lethal Weapon, Monster Squad, The Last Boy Scout, Last Action Hero, The Long Kiss Goodnight. In the late 90s, those last three, The Last Boy Scout, Last Action Hero, and The Long Kiss Goodnight, did not pop off as much as people may have expected. I know Last Action Hero was considered sort of a bomb. The Long Kiss Goodnight, Samuel Jackson and Gina Davis, which I very much enjoyed, was also not a commercial hit. So at that time, even though he was a very well paid screenwriter, he was looking to direct his first film, and he had this script that was based partially on a sort of detective dime store novel from the 1940s, but it was very much in line with his other films, with a lot of witty dialogue, very interesting characters that aren't all good or all bad, and because of its setup, and I'm going to do my best not to spoil this whole film because it's really one that I feel like you should watch. I'm sure do everything I can to avoid spoilers. It is, of course, another film that you have to rent. It is not streaming anywhere for free. I have it in DVD, but it's $3.99 in all of the normal places. If you want to find it, your Apple Music, it's on Amazon. You can get it on Apple TV. I'm sorry, Apple TV, not Apple Music. That'd be weird. Just listen to the soundtrack. It's a great soundtrack, but it'd be a strange way to look at the film. You can rent it on Google Play, Vudu, Redbox, DirecTV, all of the local or all of the regular spots.
Or from Adam
But
for $3.50.
Or you can borrow it from me, but you got to give it back. Like I said, it's one of my top 10 movies, and of course, it's best known probably for launching Robert Downey Jr. back into the A-list. He's the star. It also has one of my favorite actors of all time, Michelle Monaghan, and then Corbin Burnson as well. And it is your classic crime noir, you know, detective story, but also involves Hollywood. And the opening of the film is so brilliant in that, this is where I will do a little bit of spoiling, just setting the scene. You've got this, petty thief in New York City who's trying to rob a toy store to get a toy for a gift for somebody's kid, and then as he's running from the police, some bad things happen, and he ends up stumbling into a room where they're doing a casting call for a film, and he gives this entire monologue about everything that just happened, and he's bawling, and the director, Larry Miller, is one of those guys that you would absolutely you see him, you're like, that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Thinks it's method acting, and says, this is the guy we want for our movie. That's going to be a movie about a detective. So we're going to fly him to California, and he's going to hang out with a detective for a few days and learn how to be a detective. And of course, in classic crime noir style, the detective and the actor end up having to actually solve a crime. And it's funny because there's another movie called Hollywood Homicide with Josh Hartnett and Harrison Ford, which has a very similar setup. And in fact, Harrison Ford was considered for the Val Kilmer role in this movie before that. So it's almost like, well, somebody's like, well, we like the idea so much, we'll just change a few of the things and redo the movie. But the great thing about Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is that it is very self-aware. It does one of my favorite things about movies that can work really well, also be super horrible. It's the main character is a narrator talking to the audience. He was done so well in Ferris Bueller, and of course Joseph Gordon-Levitt in Brick, which is a highly underrated crime noir sort of like modern retelling of the story. It has exceptional performances from Robert Downey Jr., Val Kilmer, and Michelle Monaghan. Even Corbin Burnson shows up as kind of playing that rich Hollywood guy that he seemed to be kind of a spinoff of everybody, that he played in the 90s. The movie is actually Robert Downey Jr.'s favorite movie that he's ever done. And it was right after he sort of went through all of his troubles with drugs and alcohol, and he was trying to get back into Hollywood. Val Kilmer, being a interesting sort of method actor person, decided that while they were doing the entire film, he also refused to drink or do drugs. So he was sober as well to show Robert Downey Jr. support.
Nice.
It was Shane Black actually got him back into Hollywood a little bit, and Robert Downey Jr. kept pushing. He was so thankful to Shane Black, the writer and director of Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, that he pushed for him to be involved in the MCU until he ultimately wrote and directed Iron Man 3. So another, 8 years later, Robert Downey Jr. was so thankful for the opportunity that he kept pushing to get Shane Black involved in the MCU. The original budget for the film was only 15 million or 10 million. It ran over, went to 15 million. But Warner Brothers loved the movie so much that they, after it was screened, it immediately picked it to open the 2005 Cannes Film Festival, where it received a standing ovation. Wow. One of the more interesting characters, Val Kilmer, who plays the detective, his depiction of Gay Perry is generally considered to be the first openly gay character to front a Hollywood action movie. And Shane Black said it was the first time he had seen, someone who was gay but depicted as the guy who knocked down doors and was a badass, and that was just part of his personality. He wasn't effeminate in any way. He was just, a very intense, awesome detective. There are a lot of twists and turns. It all revolves around dime store novels and these kids that chase their Hollywood dreams and mysteries and mistaken identity. It's a little clunky at times. The setup, it's divided into 5 different chapters, which are all named after other crime store novels, books from the past. So it gets a little choppy at times, but it is one of my favorite and most eminently rewatchable movies that I have sitting on my shelf, and it definitely is worth the $3.99 that you would pay. And it actually has led to one of my favorite games to play, and it's something that happens in the film. And again, it's not a big spoiler, but at one point, Robert Downey Jr. and Michelle Monaghan's characters are at this party, and they knew each other when they were younger, but they haven't realized that yet. They're sitting at a bar trying to talk about the people around them and do small talk. And it's become one of my favorite games to play, and I've played it hundreds of times. And it's where you look around the room and you try to find, lookalikes of famous people, but slightly different. Mm-hmm. So in the movie, there's like bald Kevin Costner and black Patrick Swayze. And so I've played this game out in public so many times, sometimes at restaurants where I've worked. And it is one of those things where I don't think anyone ever realized that I stole it from a movie. And now I've kind of, come out about that, but it is a lot of fun, and it is a hilarious scene. and has stuck with me ever since that one. So Robert Downey Jr. was also composing his first album during the filming of the Star. Johnny Knoxville was once considered to play the role that went to Robert Downey Jr. Harrison Ford was considered for the role that went to Val Kilmer. I can't believe that would have been the same movie with those two. But
No.
I'm very, very glad that they settled on the two leads. It is a lot of fun. It's an hour and 43 minutes. It goes quick. It is certainly not a perfect crime noir send up. But if you are a fan of those style of films, there's a lot of things that it pays homage to, and little setups and little tweaks that it does about, expected scenes or expected moments. And it's a great retelling or kind of update of the entire genre. And it has two or three very good performances. And I would say Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer, their chemistry is incredible. They, had never met before they decided they had met once before they decided to do the film, and like passing at a party, not unlike the party at the beginning of the film. And they both had a great time on it, and it was certainly, you could feel it coming off the screen. The dialogue is very snappy, as all of Shane Black's films are, and it certainly holds up even now, 18 years after the fact. I will pop it in every couple of months, just to have it. Even if I'm working on something else, I'll have it on in the background. The jokes still pop. The chemistry is there, and the story is just as enjoyable and convoluted, and a mystery that is fun to unravel. Even though, as Robert Ebert in his review, which will be available on our website, eastsidebsidepodcast.square.site, there are some things that it does not tie up, loose ends that do not really get explained. But sometimes for those little true crime or crime noir style movies, it was definitely needed, and we don't need to have everything perfectly tied up and a little bow. So, if you're looking for an enjoyable, fun date night movie or evening at home, or just something that will take your mind off of the fact that it is snowing again, check out Kiss Kiss Bang
Third
Bang.
winter.
His third winter. You can have second breakfast at 11Z's and watch Kiss Kiss Bang Bang by Shane Black, starring Robert Downey Jr., Val Kilmer, Michelle Moynihan, and that is the A side.
All right, man, we wrapped this one up pretty quick this week.
We did. We not every time could be an hour and a half. You gotta, sometimes you have a light lunch.
Gotta leave them wanting more.
Yeah.
Well, of course, with everything, you can always get all the sources on our website, asidebside.square. Hold on, Adam, you do it now. So now I've messed it up. asidebside.square.site. Even though I update it every week, how did I mess it up?
Is it an A-side, B-side podcast.square.site?
Yes. See, there you go. I messed it up. A-side, B-side podcast.square.site. I'm literally looking at the site right now. Of course, we've got a YouTube, we've got a Patreon. Adam, you take it away because this is your thing now.
Yeah, we got YouTube, we got Patreon. You can check out our website for all of our links, and then of course merchandise. We would love it if you would like and share our episodes, whether that is on your favorite podcast network, or even if you're just on the website, you want to review us on a different podcast network, just click on our link. All of those things help us rise in the rankings, and is very appreciated. You can buy Brooke a coffee, so she can do this editing and also still make it up for the morning show. Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Brooke.